except for one of member of our panel. And it's always very difficult to come after lunch. So please do stay awake. We promise we'll keep it nice and short so that we can change the ball for tonight's dinner. So this year's Tropical Science 2024 theme, Harmonizing Humanity. This is a kind of a unique session because it's an academic science research still session, but it's a session where it is not scientists and researchers. This is the session where we talk about how the government can work for you internationally, nationally, and you are welcome to ask any questions of our panel here today. This is actually a far cry from the 2021 session that I did in that year. It was online. I had scientists. So this year I'm happy to have my colleagues, and I know they are dying to promote their own countries. So we'll lead them to it. I promised them that they would have 10 minutes, but you know, with us it's rarely 10 minutes. So we have the timekeeper. Thank you very much. We hope that you'll keep the time so that we can finish this session. Now, the lineup that we have this year for this policy dialogue, we have from Brazil, we have from Timor-Leste, and from the Maldives. So it's quite a diverse group of people that we have. I do have to remind you that because they are all representatives of their own government, ideas and anything they say should be under Chatham House rules. It cannot be attributed to them. This is to allow them to have more ideas and not have to implement it. Now, governments internationally, we have only 3 things to do when it comes to activism like this. The first is raising awareness, which scientists help us with. And the second is that there must be willpower. That means we need to push it to our political masters to have the willpower to change mindsets. And the third job that we have, which is usually the hardest, is securing the funding. And this is where the international community comes in. So, I'd like to start with Dr. Mariam. Dr. Mariam Shabina Ahmad is from the Maldives. She is a microbiologist among us. Sometimes we do have people from other disciplines coming into the diplomatic world, and she's one of those. She presented her credentials this year, so she's relatively new with the Malaysian Diplomatic Corps. I'm going to give you about 10 to 15 minutes to talk about the Maldives. I do know that you have some slides, and in University Putra, Malaysia. Doesn't speak Malay though, so we're trying to read her. Okay, Mariam, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Dr. Shantina, for the warm welcome. Yes, I'm the only one who is here with the fuse of diplomacy and science in this panel. So I hope I could in this panel discussion. Just to briefly give an introduction about the Maldives. I come from the Maldives, which consists of 1,192 coral islands. We are located in the Indian Ocean. We are the most dispersed geographical state in the world, actually. So we've got 99% water and 1% land in our country, and in terms of land space, we've got 285 kilometers, which makes us the 6th smallest in the world with the land space. If you were to ask me what is the biggest challenge to Maldives, I'm sure that everybody over here can guess the answer, right? So the biggest challenge for a livelihood and the well-being of the Maldives is climate change. As you can see, our islands are one above the sea level. To the climate change and environmental our country's development, over the decades we have progressed towards a lot of development projects. We have eliminated a lot of tropical diseases. At the same time, our GDP has risen up from tourism and fisheries sector. So the main GDP contributor is from fisheries and which is actually coming from the natural blue capitalism. So our economy as well as our existence is linked to the environment. We are very vulnerable in that terms. If you look, if you can see the slides, some of the challenges we have is climate change and sea level rise. Due to the climate change, we have got a lot of floodings, the islands are flooded, and coastal erosion is one main problem which is encountered in the Maldives. In addition to that, salt water introduction into the fresh water is also a problem related to us. We have got the 7th richest reef coral ecosystem in the world. So loss of biodiversity due to climate change is one problem which is faced by the Maldivian. Coral reefs are being bleached due to the increased level of sea, temperature of the sea, and then the ecosystem of the coral reef is endangered, and so the motility of coral and our mangroves and the sea grasses are also threatened by this increase of sea level. Just to touch on the SDG 719, the water resource management. Maldives is surrounded by 99% water. However, access to safe clean water is a big problem because the main source of water comes from three forms, which is desalinated water, fresh groundwater, and rainwater harvest. Since our islands are low-lying, the fresh water which is located underneath is threatened because there is a contamination of salt water with the fresh water. So there is a scarcity of fresh water, which is fresh water to the public. So in addition to that, in order to get fresh water, we have to depend on desalinated water, which is from the ocean. This is a very costly process. So to get fresh water to the public, it is also a problem because of the climate change and sea level. When we talk about all those problems, I'm sure everything relates to the budget and the finance. So we are also having economically vulnerable situation at the moment because of the rapid growth of the country in development projects. We are also facing issues with financing, adaptability, and conservation projects at the moment. So basically, micro-fiscal challenges are there. High adaptation cost is there because of that. So Maldives is actually in need of climate change funds. We would love funds from other nations who can help us in this situation at the moment. So that's all for the challenges.
Okay, thank you very much, Mariam. Just so that the ball rolling. Maldives is known for the underwater cabinet meeting that President Nahid had. Are there any plans for you to raise awareness of that level on the international front when it comes to the topics and problems that you are currently facing?
Well, in 2009, I believe, I'm not sure the audience are aware of this, we were the only country who had a cabinet meeting underwater. So it was a very hyped media event. So I think small countries like Maldives, we can only get attention with such kind of things. So I don't think we can, have another cabinet meeting, but in international forums, international platforms, Maldives is very vocal on matters of climate change and environmental degradation. So in 2019, I think we took one of the initiative. Yes. Yeah. We took the initiative in an international platform on climate smart resilient island initiative. This was done in 2019. Countries from the Caribbean and the Pacific and Indian Ocean were taking part in this. So there were 27 countries in this. So we were the pioneers of initiating this initiative in the international forum. And in addition to that, even the recent UN meeting, our president addressed the environmental subcommittees, the threat which is faced by the Maldives. So we take every opportunity which is given to us in raising the concern from small island states and also bringing this to the attention of the world. Thank you.
Okay, we'll come back to you again after this. We have with us also Ambassador Lizardo Gaspar from Timor-Leste, one of the newest countries in the world. And he joined the service as soon as Timor-Leste became independent. And we're also one of the younger ambassadors here in Malaysia, presented his credentials in July 2024. We're glad to have you here. I know you have a background in agricultural science, but that must have been about 20 years ago. I'll give you the floor, and hopefully you can promote Timor-Leste as well, and actions that Timor-Leste is doing. We know there's a lot in terms of mitigating climate change effects.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shazlina, for the introduction. Thank you also, Tanzari Maslam, for and the organizing committee for inviting me to share our experience in relation to tropics. I have 2 points to share with you today. First, I will briefly talk about basic information about Timor-Leste, and then I will move on to the challenge that we have in terms of managing tropics. Firstly, in terms of the information about Timor-Leste, of course, you might know that we are situated in Southeast Asia. We share the island with Indonesia. We have 2 seasons, dry and wet. Dry season normally very heavy rain, and it started from December to May, and then the dry season from June to November. And the temperature is about ranging from 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. In terms of biodiversity in Timor-Leste, we have a variety of plants, species including tropical forest, grassland, and coastal mangroves. We have numerous animal species, including unique birds, reptiles, and mammals. Some of our species are now endangered, like Timor deer. In terms of marine life, we are surrounded by waters that support vibrant coral reef and wide range of marine biodiversity, including fish, sea turtle, and other marine organisms. As a small country and least developed country, we face many challenges in terms of how managing our ecosystem, our environment. One of the challenges, like my colleague from Maldives says about climate change. Climate change poses significant risk to Timor-Leste, affecting our environment, our economy, our community. With the climate change, we experience unpatterned weather in Timor-Leste, abnormal weather pattern. We sometimes these affected the food production. I give one example. This year alone, in my home village, the south coast of Timor-Leste, there was heavy impacted the food production in my village. Similarly, with the rise of sea level, part of during my childhood we grow rice no longer there. So these are the real impact of climate change. We are a small country. Our community still lack of awareness of how their behavior influence our ecosystem, influence our diversity. Um, there are in example that like during rainy season, some people just throw the rubbish to the river, which end up to the sea. These are the example that we are facing. We are talking very basic things. The other challenge also that the majority of our population depends one way or another to agriculture, and we continue to practice sustainable agriculture, which is a predominant. We are still using unsustainable practices such as deforestation, which impact soil erosion. Many farmers still facing challenges like limited access to agriculture technology, agriculture financing, and also market. One of big challenge we have is the condition of the country itself. As this developed country, we are under economic pressure. Communities in many areas in Timor-Leste, we are talking about basic things, providing food, basic necessities, and sometimes we have to resort to let's say, short-term gain rather than thinking strategically. No, we're still using firewood as for cooking, and we have to chop the trees in order to cook, to put food on the table. These are the basic things. There is also a practice in Timor which is related to our own culture. We still live traditionally in, we have many clans in Timor-Leste, and those clans, they have their own traditional house, sacred houses. And these houses are built typically using local materials, typically using certain types of products, of forestry products that are available in the area. And that's, there are many, in our belief, each of clan has to have their own traditional house. And for that reason, there is no way else except, we go to cutting the trees in the forest. Basically, these are the challenges.
And a lot of funding comes in. It's also going to be one of the newest ASEAN member, hopefully next year. It's also going to be one of the newest ASEAN member, hopefully next year, Malaysia takes over the chairmanship. Alessandro, if I could just take from what you have said before, I think internationally, Timor-Leste has been leading the fight. It's been the voice of the tropics when it comes to the NTPs, when it comes to trying to get assistance for recognition for NTPs, the problems of NTPs among the tropics. And this is where you have had multilateral assistance from both the WHO and COICA. Are there any other initiatives that you have received international assistance from?
In terms of the priority the country is putting, just to share that we appointed special envoy, special ambassador for climate change. That's how the priority we put. So our ambassador, Adam Barbosa, is a scientist too from our national university. He's special envoy, ambassador for climate change, and he has been the voice of small islands in terms of discussion during conference of parties on climate change. And of course, we do have benefited from multilateral support in terms of mitigating climate change. Also bilateral, also we do have other countries that helping us, helping us in that. But just going back to my point that there are some programs that specifically on climate change, but also other support from other countries also helping in terms of which is helping us in our basics in order we are not burden the ecosystem, burden the planet. So indeed we do have support, and for us it's a priority. That's why we appointed special envoy for that.
Thank you. Okay, and our third speaker, third panelist for today, is no stranger. Ari Norton is the ambassador of Brazil to Malaysia. He's been here since 2020. And of course, Brazil is one of the biggest countries when it comes to the tropics. So, without further ado, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ambassador Shazina. I would like to thank the organizers of this conference for inviting me and congratulate them on organizing this conference. And I would particularly like to thank Sri Dr. Mazlan Othman for making sure that Brazil is participating here today. Thank you, Sri. I would like to mention something very important that several speakers in the morning mentioned, that the idea behind this conference, I believe, is something which Malaysia think that discussion on tropical issues should be led by tropical countries, and that tropical countries should not allow themselves to be led by developed countries on issues that affect them, those tropical countries directly. And obviously Brazil and Malaysia are two of those tropical countries, as are the Maldives and Timor-Leste. When I arrived in Malaysia in January 2020, I noticed that there were several areas in which Brazil and Malaysia could cooperate more, and in which there had been until then very little dialogue. One of those areas is the environment and climate change. And I believe that in the last 2 years, year and a half, a lot has been happening between Malaysia and Brazil in the field of the environment. One of the things, for example, that Brazil and Malaysia have been saying under their respective current governments, both President Lula and José Anwar Ibrahim have advocated that a reform of the global governance. And that was something, in the morning, a member of the public, Dr. Selina Hijas, I believe she's not here right now, I can't see her from where I'm sitting, but she said something very interesting, that preserving the environment, taking care of the environment, also involves changing the way the financial institutions act and behave, and that's totally correct. When Brazil and Malaysia try to have changes brought about in the way international institutions work, particularly the financial, not only the Security Council of the UN, the United Nations as a whole, but also the financial institutions. We are not only talking about a change of giving more empowerment to developing countries within those financial institutions, but we're also talking about things such as being more aware of the environment. For example, developing countries within those financial institutions, international financial institutions, they have to share their seats, whereas developed countries do not. Obviously, that affects the way discussions about climate change and the environment and tropical forests are carried out in those financial institutions, as developing countries are underrepresented. The current government of Brazil has been doing a lot internationally about protecting forests. In August last year, in a city in the Amazon region called Belém, the capital of the state of Pará, which by the way is the same city where next year COP30 is going to be held, when Brazil has the chairmanship of COP30. In August last year in Belém do Pará, the 8 Amazonian countries, together with the Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Indonesia adopted a declaration called United for Our Forests. The objective of that declaration is precisely to make sure that developing countries, which have a significant portion of tropical forests in their territory, are in the lead of on how to preserve those forests. And I was very happy that Malaysia was the first non-original signatory of that declaration to join the declaration in November last year. Because since Dato Siliano Ibrahim became the Prime Minister of Malaysia and Lula became the President of Brazil again in January last year, the dialogue between Brazil and Malaysia has acquired a lot of momentum. Malaysia joining the United for Our Forest Declaration was just one gesture. Brazil launched a few months ago a tropical forest facility whose objective is to gather more funds to preserve forests, tropical forests. And Malaysia joined Brazil and other countries as a member of the steering committee of that facility launched by Brazil. There are several initiatives in which Brazil and Malaysia can cooperate. For example, Brazil this year, as chair of the G20, launched an initiative against hunger and poverty, which is totally compatible with Malaysia and Madani, and we hope that Malaysia will be able to join that initiative, because the fight against hunger and poverty is also part of the fight to preserve the environment. So that's what I wanted to say, Ambassador Chazarina, in my initial words. Thank you.
Thank you. As you can see, Ambassador Ari Norton is an accomplished diplomat. He comes from a long line of diplomats as well. Yeah. His mother was a diplomat. His wife is the ambassador of Brazil in Singapore. So, of course, he's talking about Malaysia and Brazil and initiatives that we can do. You touched on the TFFF, the Tropical Forest Financing Forever Facility. This was unveiled in COP28, but it's now going on. It's already been. Could you elaborate more on this? Because I think it was just recently unveiled. The details of it just came out recently.
Yes, we launched it in COP28 and in Dubai, and we've been trying to. Let me tell you something about tropical forests. The world spent. This is part of what President said in his speech at the General Assembly of the United Nations this September, a month ago, less than a month ago. The world spent in 2023 alone $2.4 trillion on armaments. The number for nuclear armaments is even more impressive. It's the world spent in 2023 $90 billion in nuclear armaments, and all those billions, trillions of dollars are dollars which are not going on the part of developed countries and the richest countries towards the fight against hunger and poverty and climate change and the preservation of the environment. So when President Lula launched the Tropical Forest Forever Facility, TFFF, the objective is to mobilize more international financing from developed countries and the private sector towards preserving tropical forests. The objective is mobilizing by